Welcome. Today, we are going to take the idea of prayer, pull it apart, and then put it back together, but as a symphony. We're going to explore how prayer can be this powerful, multi-layered composition that goes way beyond just a simple list of things we want. You know, for a lot of people, prayer is basically a to-do list for God, a list of needs, a list of wants. But what if it's so much more than that? What if asking is just one single note in a much bigger, way more beautiful piece of music? Let's dive into that. So let's unpack this whole prayer symphony metaphor. It's actually rooted in the Greek word symphoneo, which means to agree. It's where we get our word symphony, and it's all about harmony. So in this way of thinking, each type of prayer is like a different instrument in an orchestra. And when they all play together in harmony, well, the result is something truly beautiful and powerful. Every great piece of music needs a solid foundation, right? A steady rhythm that just holds everything else together. Well, in our prayer orchestra, that rhythm section is made up of two essential instruments, praise and thanksgiving. These are the foundational beats. So in this first part, we're going to break down these two crucial rhythm instruments. We'll look at what praise really is, and then we'll uncover the incredible transformative power of thanksgiving. Okay, let's start with the instrument of praise. Now, the key thing to get here is that praise isn't about what you've gotten. It's about who God is. It's all about honoring his character, his power, his wisdom, his creativity, and it has absolutely nothing to do with your current circumstances. This verse from the Psalms just nails the whole idea of praise. It's a direct response to God's own greatness. It's basically saying he is worthy of honor, full stop. Simple as that. Now let's bring in the next instrument in our rhythm section, thanksgiving. So if praise is about who God is, thanksgiving is all about what God has done. This is where we get specific. It's where we express gratitude for his actions, for the blessings, for the ways he's shown up in our lives. And this story just perfectly illustrates why Thanksgiving is so important. Think about it. All 10 of the lepers were physically healed. That's amazing. But only the one who actually came back to say thank you was the one who was made whole, which suggests a much deeper spiritual kind of blessing. It shows us that Thanksgiving really does open the door for more. All right, we've got our rhythm section locked in. Now it's time to bring in the melody. And these are the instruments that most of us are probably the most familiar with. The prayers of asking. We call them petition and intercession. So petition is probably the most played instrument in anyone's prayer orchestra. It's super straightforward. This is when we bring our own personal needs to God, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. In fact, it's a vital part of the symphony. But how we play this instrument really matters. Now, the source material points out this really fascinating distinction. There's a difference between receiving the answer and having the answer. Receiving it is the moment you accept it by faith, believing it's already done. Having it is when you actually see the physical result. That first step, the faith step, is what kicks the whole process off. So how do you get from receiving to having? Well, the source uses this fantastic analogy, keeping the plug in. Once you prayed and you believe it, you stay connected through constant thanksgiving. See, you don't keep asking for the same thing over and over. Instead, you start thanking God for the answer, and you just keep doing that until it shows up. And this idea is so powerfully demonstrated in a story about a woman with a ruptured disc. After she prayed for healing, she started thanking God every single time she felt a jolt of pain. She'd say, "Thank you, Lord, that I'm healed." She kept that plug in for months, and eventually her spine was completely restored. The other big melodic instrument is intercession. And the word itself literally means to come in between. This isn't about our needs at all. This is about us standing in the gap for someone else. A friend, a family member, your community, or even your entire country. You want to see a masterclass in intercession? Look no further than Abraham. He respectfully bargains with God, pleading for the people of Sodom. He is literally standing between God's judgment and that city, showing us exactly what it means to go to bat for other people. Okay, we've got rhythm, we've got melody. Now it's time to bring in the power chords. These are the instruments that might be a little less familiar, but trust me, they carry some serious authority and can completely change the dynamic of the music. We're talking about the prayers of command and commitment. Now, what's so wild about a prayer of command is the shift in direction. This type of prayer isn't actually directed to God. Instead, it's about you using the authority you've been given by God and speaking directly to the problem, whether that's a sickness, a financial mess, or any other mountain in your way. And the basis for this comes from verses just like this one in Mark. Did you catch that? It doesn't say, ask God about the mountain. It says, whoever says to this mountain. It's an instruction to speak right to the problem with faith-filled authority. And the final power chord is the prayer of commitment. You play this instrument when a burden just gets too heavy for you to carry. It's that conscious act of surrender, of literally rolling that worry, that anxiety, that whole problem completely over to God and trusting Him with whatever happens next. And this verse from Psalms is the incredible promise that backs this prayer up. When you commit your way, your problem, your future to Him, and you trust Him, He will act. It's an act of trust that unlocks peace and brings resolution. Okay, so we've looked at the rhythm, the melody, and the power chords. The big question now is, how do we bring it all together? Let's talk about what it actually means to conduct your own personal prayer symphony. So here they are, the instruments we've assembled today. We've got the foundational rhythm of praise and thanksgiving, the beautiful melody of petition and intercession, and of course, the powerful chords of command and commitment. Every single one has its place and its purpose. And that right there is the main takeaway. A dynamic, effective prayer life was never meant to be a monologue of just asking for stuff. It's meant to be a rich dialogue, a full orchestra. It's all about learning when to play the soft notes of thanksgiving and when to strike the powerful chords of command. So, as we wrap up, I'll leave you with this to think about. Looking at this whole orchestra, which instrument is maybe missing from your life, or at least a little underused? Perhaps it's time to learn a new part and just see how it changes the music you make. Which new instrument will you add to your symphony?